Hey, it is Tristan, and I really wanted to look at this Drowned Earth comic. I know it's just a one shot and tie-in, but I was really curious to see if I would enjoy it because I don't ever give Aquaman a fair shot because he's never been my favorite in, the DC universe, but I was pleasantly surprised by this one. It was really good. I think this kind of starts off where The Witching Hour ended, and I haven't been following Aquaman, so I don't know much about that. But I know it ties in with Aquaman, it ties in with The Witching Hour, it ties in with Justice League, and I really just kind of was curious to see how it was, and I was more than pleasantly surprised. But it starts off with no, it doesn't. Let's start with the obvious. It is written by James Tynion and the artist is Howard Porter. The variant done was by The variant was done by Francis Manapul. And I always forget to say this, so spoiler warning. I am going to go through the whole thing, so if you don't want to know about it and you want to read it completely by yourself, come back at another time. But anyways, starts off with Arthur and his mom and dad, and she is basically leaving. She's leaving Amnesty Bay, and she is going back into the ocean, and she's telling him that she has to do this because Arthur will always hear the call of the ocean, and he must learn how to understand it. So she leaves, and this is super sad to begin with. Like, the picture of Arthur crying for his mama is just heartbreaking, but I absolutely love it. I think the art on this is really, really good, and I think the colors were done by Hi-Fi, so they always seem to do a really good job. But then we go to Blood Reef, and kind of in this fish language, they're taking Arthur away, and you really don't know what's going on, but then you get to meet Tide, which she is talking about these gods and what they're going to do to Arthur. They can't kill Arthur because they need to take his power from him, basically. We see a small conversation between Tide and Arthur, and they talk about she's going to take over the earth, and these people are going to become these fish mutant-like creatures. And he begs her not to do this, obviously. But he says there can be peace. There's been peace. We can do it again. And then we switch immediately back to Gotham, and we see Gordon helping this little old lady into almost a church because the water has come up so far on the shore that people are just in masses becoming these sea-like creatures. And we see Batman show up, and there's kind of a little bit of a conversation of how he doesn't want, he wants to make sure he gets the high ground because he doesn't want anything to happen to Gordon, because Harvey, we find out, is already gone. And then the little old lady falls back, and she falls right into Gordon, who falls right into the water. And I love this scene where Batman says, "I'm sorry, Jim, I'll fix this, I swear." And we realize that it's actually a hologram, and it switches back, and we see Batman sitting in his chair, and he's just projected himself, to make sure that anything didn't happen to him, but then he also got to see that happen to Gordon, and I think was a really cool moment. I like that. But then we see Miss Martian come up, and they have a little conversation about what's going to happen, and she's not going to leave him, that her uncle wouldn't have wanted that to happen. And then we switch right back to Metropolis, and we see Superman dealing with the same thing Batman did, except for he had Star Labs, and he was able to have these, oh my gosh, what are they called? Basically what it is they've designed this seawall, and it's shielded a lot of the city, but not so much that there isn't still casualties. We do realize that he has gotten Lois to the fortress, but then he also has the guilt of getting her there. He could have saved a few thousand more people. So it's that internal conflict we keep seeing. And then we switch to Atlantis, which opens up the dialogue with Mira. And Atlantis is above ground at this point, but I love the way Mira looks. They did a really good job making her. She looks stunning. But we get to see her fight and be a little bit of a badass. And she kind of is talking to someone. We realize she's talking to the Ocean Master, and that he's going to help save everyone from what is going on. And I really like that because kind of a story of redemption almost, and you'll see what I mean in a little bit. But then we switch to the Blood Reef. I mean, there's a lot of switching around, so I apologize. And I'm not going to go through all of this dialogue because there is a lot, and I do think this is worth the read. But basically, it's a why are you doing this kind of thing, and she explains that. Well, then we get to see this awesome page of Black Manta show up, and he's like, comes up from the water, and there's water falling from him, and it looks absolutely stunning. And he's obviously surprised to see him, and he says the Legion of Doom sends their regards. So we get a tie-in then with Justice League, and I really like that they did that. Then we switch back to Metropolis, and the city's been taken over by water, and Superman is just at his wit's end at this point. He couldn't stop it. He's not happy about the situation, and he's just pissed. And there's this great picture of him, starting to get his heat vision out, and I think it just looks absolutely amazing. And then we go to the Atlantic Ocean, and we're following Superman there. And he's looking for whatever happened, and he's looking to figure out exactly what's going on because nobody really knows at this point. But he does this, boom, clap with his hands, and the picture is stunning. So then we see Flash fly in from Coast City, and he's been around the world helping people as fast as he can, but he's going right across the water. So we know from before that if that happens, they turn into these sea creatures. And the whole time I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? Yeah. But Superman yells out and wants him to, get away from the water, get away from this Kraken-type creature. But then Drogue shows up to take over Superman, or to fight with him. And there's a nice little battle scene there, a really good one, actually. And of course, before it could end, we switch back to Black Manta and Arthur going at it. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of dialogue. This is worth the read because I don't want to go through everything and give every little piece away. But we do get to see them talk about how Aquaman is so strong. He's got all these powers, I think more recently he hasn't used his telepathy as much as he did in the Golden Age, but it's still there. So he uses it to speak with Mara, and he's able to see her, and she is able to receive him, and it's a really good, well thought out page, and she wants to know where you are. He says, I'm at the Blood Reef, you have to run, and their hands almost touch. And then we get to see Orm show up. And right as Arthur's leaving, he takes Mira and he says, what do you know of the legend of Orion? And she said, is this cruel bedtime story? And he said, no, it's not a story, it's true. And he takes her to the Tier of Extinction. And it is something that can save Atlantis and save the world. So she gets it. And right as they're leaving, he sacrifices himself. And I really liked this because he was able to sacrifice himself for the greater good when normally we see him more as a, evil creature and evil character. Then we switch back again to the Atlantic Ocean, and we see this scene that had been going down with Flash and Superman. And Superman's going down, and he's, getting so close to the water. He's getting to that point where Drogue is taking him down, and Flash saves him. And he's able to save him, and he's still touching the water. But we really don't find out if that has any consequence, which I'm sure it will. But we are able to see that he is able to save Superman, but it does leave us hanging as far as that goes. Then we get a nice little page on Batman, and he's talking to Megan again, or Miss Martian, and they're kind of just talking a little bit about John, and then he puts her in the room, or in this teleporter, and he's like, no, you need to go be with the Titans, go save them, go help. And she's gone. He is there now alone. Then we continue to see this fight at Blood Reef between Black Manta and between Arthur, and kind of just explains a little bit of what's happening more, but then Tide steps in, and she's able to take the power that Arthur has and transfer it into Black Manta. And Arthur sits there and says, I can't feel them. It's gone. I can't hear the ocean anymore. And, Black Manta's like, oh, you had all this power all along. This is amazing, And he said he's really excited to have this. And knows that the Legion of Doom will be very happy for him. Well, yeah, obviously. But then we get to the final page, and this whole time we've seen everybody else, but we were kind of wondering where Wonder Woman was at, and we finally get to see her. And she's got one of these fish people tied up with her lasso, and it just says, "Where the hell is Wonder?" No, it doesn't. It says, "Where the hell is Aquaman?" And I really like how they ended this. I was kind of like, "Oh no, that's it. That's all we're gonna see." But I really enjoyed this, and it made me want to know more. Made me want to read Aquaman more. I really did enjoy this. I know I said that before, but it was one of those great stories about, human suffering and loss and sacrifice. And we got to see Batman upset. We got to see Superman worried about what he had to sacrifice to save Lois. I really think this was well done. And my thing is when a story makes me want to know more about a character, that's when I know it's something really I should say, this is good, this is great. And another part I really loved was Orm's sacrifice in this, because it's a little out of character, but he did it for his queen, he did it for Mira, and he did it for all of the world to be able to get that tier of extinction out there. So I really enjoyed this. Like, this is one of those tie-ins that was kind of optional, and it kind of tied in with stuff I wasn't even reading, and I was able to understand it from beginning to end without having to read like Aquaman. So I think they did a good job, and the art is stunning. I definitely say this was worth the buy, so let me know, of course, what you guys think. If I can talk today, I will see you in the next one. Bye.